Guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1946's The Dark Mirror. Now, this film's over 75 years old, but it's still one of the great psychological thrillers and features the still impressive and, at the time, cutting-edge special effect of having Olivia de Havilland play identical twins, frequently appearing in the same scene together. It's a dark and twisted movie with some great themes of psychological manipulation, murder, obviously, with a Hitchcockian twisty vein running through it. Its depiction of both police work and certainly the psychiatric profession are now seen as almost laughable. But that's one of the great things about it. Let's take a look.
One of you women is a murderess. You've killed a man in cold blood. The other is an accomplice. But the law upholds your refusal to give any testimony under the circumstances. It also forbids the indiscriminate prosecution of more than one person in order to make sure of one guilty one. This protection now enables you to become parties to an outrageous and shameful miscarriage of justice. I have no words adequate to express my contempt and abhorrence for both of you.
So The Dark Mirror has screen icon Olivia de Havilland of Gone with the Wind and Robin Hood fame, playing both Terry and Ruth Collins, identical twin sisters. One of them, it soon turns out, is a murderer. So after a man is found stabbed to death in his apartment, it's up to Lieutenant Stevenson, played here by Thomas Mitchell, to solve the crime. So far, so film noir. But after interviewing a few witnesses, it would seem that a young lady who works at a newspaper stand is the chief suspect, despite the fact that her alibi seems pretty tight. Now, the rug gets pulled when Stevenson visits Terry at home and discovers that she has an identical twin sister, Ruth, played again by Olivia de Havilland. And now his precious witnesses don't know which one of the twins they saw leaving the crime scene.
Can you tell me which girl that was?
No, sir.
You're sure of that?
Well, I didn't know that there were two of them.
Now, this all leads Stevenson to Dr. Elliot, a psychiatrist who's tasked with using his skills to work out which one of the sisters is the culprit.
How do you know somebody else didn't do it?
I don't. In the meantime, I'll play along with the twins, at least one of them. Do you realize, Doc, that one of those girls could knock that guy off in the corner of Broad and Main with 50 witnesses, and we still couldn't hang it on her?
Now, this is one of those instances where you'd think it would be easy to tell which is which, as one has a shy, retiring nature and the other's more outspoken and sure of herself. And a decent chunk of Dark Mirror shows the girls in the psychiatrist's chair as they, and us the audience, are thrown a series of psychotherapy cliches. We've got the Rorschach test, word association games, obviously a lie detector. And as that needle starts to jump about as soon as the bad sister starts talking, we surely know she's the lunatic. Or is she? Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that side of things, as obviously that's the whole point of the film. But I can tell you that as the film progresses, we get one sister trying to drive the other mad by pretending she's suffering crazy hallucinations in an attempt to convince her she could have carried out the murder. Honestly, the crazier it gets, the more fun you'll have.
You've talked about it before in your sleep. You were worried about one of us being crazy. The old saying, you know, that one of twins is likely to be abnormal. But that's not true. That's a superstition.
Now, The Dark Mirror is a visually striking movie, but it's that stunt camera trickery required to have Olivia de Havilland playing twins in the same scene, which is the real draw. These days you can do CGI, and I think The Social Network and the Craze film Legend really did this well, but this far back in the day, it's beyond impressive. The film employs split screens and optical effects to excellent effect to allow de Havilland to be on screen as the two characters at the same time, with some moving shots, I'm assuming, using a double from behind. And on a technical level, it's still massively impressive. But what impresses most is the direction and acting it takes to show de Havilland having convincing conversations with herself, basically.
Have you been taking your capsules?
No,
Why not?
they're no good.
Well, maybe you don't take enough. But be careful. Don't take too many.
Now, as legendary as de Havilland was, I don't think she usually got a huge amount of credit for her acting. She was nominated a few times for an Oscar and actually won this year, but I think it was for To Each His Own. She should have won again in 1948 for her brilliant work in The Snake Pit, but was robbed by Jane Wyman in the mostly forgotten about Johnny Belinda. Now, although it was the age of film noir, the cinema-going public wasn't quite ready for true darkness here, and as such, The Dark Mirror doesn't go as deep down the twisted hole of psychotically unhinged murderers as modern audiences might expect. Melodrama can't help but sneak into proceedings, and here we have Lew Ayres, psychiatrist, falling in love with the good twin.
I want to know everything about you that's possible to know. For myself.
And apparently you will. Good night.
Do you think when all this business is over, I can call and ask you out for dinner, dancing, or just to talk? In a purely personal way.
You think you'll still want to?
Now, after all these years and the good and evil twin angle being much more familiar to us, some of these methods used here to subtly signpost which sister is which are pretty quaint now. The sisters wear necklaces with their initials on, and at one point one wears white and one wears black, I think, which isn't the most subtle of methods. Now, despite having a plot about murder and being thematically about abnormal psychology, at its core the film's really about jealousy between siblings and how deep that can run, certainly between identical twins. It's painted in a bit of an on-the-nose way, with one sister obviously being the goody two-shoes who'd make a great wife for any man, and the other being the more promiscuous type who men just want for, other things. Now, The Dark Mirror was directed competently by noir maestro Robert Siodmak, whose many B-movies from the time have since been reappraised as classics. Here, outside of his wrangling of the visual effects, he delivers a few bravura moments. Just check out this opening shot. Now, what haven't I mentioned? It was written for the screen by Uber film noir scriptwriter and producer Nunnally Johnson, the highest paid screenwriter at the time for his work on things like The Long Dark Hall, How to Marry a Millionaire, Black Widow. I also didn't realise that a TV movie remake arrived in 1984 with Jane Seymour in the dual title role. I haven't seen that, but I've heard it's actually worth a watch. Now, interestingly, the 1940s were a ripe time for psychology flavoured plots and themes. I'm talking about movies like Shadow of a Doubt, Rebecca, The Woman in the Window, Laura, the list goes on. Now, The Dark Mirror sits alongside all of those with its fusion of film noir, mind games and murder. I'd recommend it on the strength of the de Havilland performances alone. The more we see her characters' personalities diverge, the more her performance strengthens, and come that climax, she's outstanding. Go check it out.
Moon.
Beans.
Knife.
Scissors.
White.
Black.
Mirror.
Death.